Sterno.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it made a good drink. It kept you warm.
I'm sure it kept you warm. Sterno, keep you warm. Yuck, 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 yuck.
When I was going into prison years ago, I met a girl who used to be a prostitute out in California, and she told me a lengthy story about not having any food, and didn't have any money, and she went into a diner and got the ketchup and did that very thing, put it in a glass and got a little water and then went back out in the snow after she had a glass full of ketchup. Anyway, it brought that to mind. That was a real story. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean,
Aaron, I wanted to ask you something. How long? This is key to everything you're talking about tonight. How long do you think this condition will exist in the United States before everything comes back to the way it is today?
My son asked me that the other day, and you know what? He's 16, and you know what I said to him? Actually, Brad and I both turned around, looked at him, and said, "The rest of your life."
I think Cliff High said 3 lifetimes.
Yeah, this is it, folks. You better have your seeds, and you better have a greenhouse.
How do you do after the first 6 months of eating your emergency food? What do you do after the 6 months for 3 lifetimes?
Well, you better have a
You're going to have to go back
plan.
like we're going to go back to the pioneer days. You're going to have livestock, and you're going to have to grow gardens and whatnot. And depending on what the sun does, you may be limited on that. We have enough food put back for several years. That's the thing. Because what if we can't get a garden in that first year, or what if we only get half of a garden? We've got lots of candy jars put back, but we don't know. That's the thing. You can only prep with what you can do at the time. I can't prep for every single contingency out there that's going to hit us. I can't prep for Planet X necessarily. You just can't. You do what you can now, but you've got to have the stuff in place to where, okay, we're going to have a big garden, so we better have the gardening tools. We better know how to garden. We better have the seeds to do it. We have the livestock already, so that's the best I can offer up there, Griff.
How long are you going to set up at night? How many years will you have to protect the garden at night, 24 hours a day, and the livestock?
Long time.
So you'll have to rotate people with guns protecting the garden.
Yes. You've got that right, yes.
It's going to be almost like...
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be like Frontier Days. You're going to be like quasi Amish, Wild West. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it's going to happen.
No morals anymore.
You know what I'm going to do?
It's not like back in the Depression where people were actually kind of polite. You don't have that anymore. This is going to be Mad Max times about 100,000.
I'm going to be like, welcome to King Mart. That's going to be me. Thank you for shopping King Mart. Have a nice day. That's going to be me.
As time goes on and as your supplies are diminished, as you eat down your supplies and picking gets pretty scarce, your overall health will diminish through lack of nutrition. If you have vitamin pills, that will help a little bit. It'll supplement somewhat. But as time goes on, sickness will increase in the population and in your family because of the lack of nourishment. How do you suggest we address that problem?
I have ordered and printed out a lot of information on natural remedies, weeds that grow wildly in the yard or the woods or the field. If that's what people are going to need to know, we're going back to the basics. I don't like pharmaceuticals anyway, so it's no stretch for me to want to do this naturally. I think that's the best, but there is something I want to bring up before we run out of time. When this does happen, you're probably not going to have access to like hospitals. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody in your group cuts themselves, or heaven forbid somebody gets shot, whatever, you're going to be learning. You better have somebody in your group that knows how to do something along the medical lines. Now, I came up with an idea because I'm used to doing a lot of surgery from what I did previously. You can't, now on emergency essentials, I know you can buy suture. A lot of people, aren't going to buy the suture, they're not going to take the time to buy suture to sew up wounds. Or 2, they just won't even think about it. So you're going to have to be able to do this stuff on your own. It's like ditch medicine. It's like field medicine, okay? What I came up with isn't great, but it'll work. It will sew somebody up. And you can take a sewing needle, a straight sewing needle. Ladies, I'm sure you've got it. If not, go buy a sewing kit. Get one that's got a big enough eye that you can get dental floss through that sewing needle. Now, when I do surgery, I don't like a straight needle. I want it curved. So I held my sewing needle in a hemostat over my Zippo lighter, and I bent it to look like a J, where the sharp part, it turned up, so it was like a J. Threaded my dental floss, and I can suture with that. It's not perfect, and it's not the best, but if somebody's either got this huge gaping wound that's going to be infected unless you suture it, what are your choices? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Now, John, you've done a lot of prep on the medical side too, haven't you?
Absolutely. I have medical books here that tell how to do amputations, take out an appendix, how to control internal bleeding. Speaking of sutures, Aaron, I've done that myself. I've cut my hand open with a carpenter's tool. I didn't have health insurance. I made minimum wage at the time. I was lucky. I was employed. I come in. I put alcohol on my wound. I went over. I grabbed the needle. I grabbed some sewing thread, broke off about a 2-foot piece, and I sewed myself up and gave myself 3 stitches with the sewing thread. My wife went ballistic on me, but it beat paying a $400 emergency room bill out of pocket.
That's right. Well, you can use dental floss. You can use thread. You can also use fishing line. It just doesn't hold the knots as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all those books that John's talking about. You can download the Army field manuals too. I know James Wesley Rawls has a lot of that stuff on his site, Survival Blog. Those are great things to have. I have the ones that my husband had in the Army. He was a field medic, so I have those too. But I've done a lot of emergency work myself. But like John said, he had to suture himself up. He didn't want to pay the medical bill. You're not going to have a choice when there's no hospitals to go to, or if you can't physically get to them. So you've got to get your medical kits in order. That's lots of alcohol. It's going to be nice if you can find somebody to sell you some lidocaine, trust me. But if not, rubbing alcohol, Jim Beam whiskey, I don't care what you use. That's what they used in the old days was whiskey. Anything that's got alcohol in it, it's going to at least clean the area. You can use clean water to flush it, then use the alcohol as a rinse before you suture it.
Now,
that's where you're at. Now, you can go to those Tractor Supply stores, too, and you could buy surgical scrub, back in the equine department.
Here's another thing I learned, too, and, this, of course, goes along the lines of medical, too. If you have to do surgery of any type, that's probably going to be pretty painful, and you were talking about lidocaine, but I'm going to offer this up, too. Go to the store and go get some of the McCormick's, and you have to get the premium, but get the McCormick's premium poppy seeds and throw them in your go bag, because those will grow into poppies, and you can harvest them, and you can make your own laudanums, tincture of laudanum.
Make your own opium, people.
You can do that, and
that's right. You can.
It's one of the safest painkillers out there. Believe it or not, there is such a stigma against opiates, and it's a real shame because they are one of the, if not the safest painkillers out there.
That's right.
Now you don't want to abuse it like everything else. You got to be careful. But the fact of the matter is it works. The second thing is that what Dr. Waterman pointed out to me, and that we haven't tried it yet, but we're gonna try it here soon, is wild lettuce.
Wait a minute.
Apparently, wild lettuce has a medicinal effect that's greater than marijuana, but has it's a watered down opiate effect, and it's totally legal in all 50 states. It's not illegal. There's no problems with it. It's an herb. That's what it is, and it's called wild lettuce. As a matter of fact, you can buy, I think, 100 seeds for $2.49 on the internet, or you can go to these health food stores. And all you got to do is do an internet search, a Google search for it, and you'll see it. And you can buy the liquid form and everything else. So I mean, there are things out there for you guys to do. And Aaron, you don't have to go and buy some of those fancy schmancy first aid or medic kits, do you?
You can if you want. I don't. I just put together things that I know that I'm going to need and stuff I use now, because we don't go to doctors and we treat our own livestock. So we've got a lot of this stuff. My medical kit itself, since I've been doing this for a couple of years, is very extensive. I mean, I've got fluids. I can do IVs. I've got all of that stuff.
Wow.
So,
that's fantastic.
I've got surgical packs. I've got blades. I've got everything that I've acquired over the last couple of years. You can find a lot of that stuff. Here's another thing that people might want to go to a flea market. You can find cheap dental instruments and hemostats and whatnot at flea markets. You can also find a straight razor to shave areas. You know, we're not going to have disposable razors forever, okay? They're going to run out or they're going to dull. With the old-fashioned straight razor, you could do a lot with that. It can be a weapon, too, but don't tell anybody I said that.
Hey, we've got a caller in queue. I want to go to before we hit our break time here. Let's go to Lee in Kentucky. Lee, you are live on the show.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. How are you all?
Doing fine, Lee.
Hey, couple quick comments. I was trying to listen to your program here tonight. On the first aid side, a little trick we learned in the Army with a laceration. What you can actually do is clean it out with alcohol, pinch it together, and crazy glue, believe it or not. You put that over the wound and hold it together until it seals, because the wound, the body heals itself, and as long as you've got something together to keep infection and things out. That's a trick. And also with pain medication, any willow tree. Aspirin, in fact, is made from the willow tree. You take the willow tree and the inner bark, you shave off the outer bark, and the inner bark, that part on the inside, you shave that out, you chew it up. It's what the Indians use, just like aspirin. It's a natural pain reliever. The last thing I wanted to bring up was we were talking about how long do we need to prepare for. I don't know about the 3 or 4 lifetimes. I don't know, because it gets to a point to where if it is that bad, you start asking yourself, what am I surviving for? But in my opinion, I think that what we have to look at is, I believe, from a biblical perspective, that we need to be looking at least 3.5 years, because the second 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation is, in fact, when the persecution of the Christians comes. Taking that in mind, as we talked about the other night, that's not to say that judgment for America doesn't come before that starts. So we could be looking at quite a long time. And I'd just like to get your all's perspective on that. And tell you, I really appreciate you guys bringing these topics up tonight. I'm sure that a lot of people will be in help from it. I am. John's brought a lot to it. But I'd like to hear yours and AC's and John's opinion on, how long you actually think the severity will be. And with that, I'll say good night, and God bless you guys.
Well, God bless you too, Lee, for sure. Now, I take the Bible pretty seriously. I think that what it tells us is that once the tribulation period begins, it's pretty much going to be bam, 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 bam. I don't see it letting up in a short period of time. Do you, Griff?
No, all your infrastructure, all your ability to trade labor and products, all your products will stop coming into the country, and nobody's going to come to the aid of America. You're going to have 300 million people sitting here with no way to get out of this dilemma. The whole world is going to be affected to some extent, but I think the country, the United States, going to suffer more than any other single country. I don't see it turning around. I don't see any mechanism. If somebody can tell me what will cause it to correct itself, I'd like to hear it. I don't see that. It could very well be, if you're a Christian and you believe that it is so, then I hope you're right. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of religions in the world, and they think they're right too, just like the Christians think they're right. The Christians are new guys on the block. The other religions are older than Christianity. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. Everybody has faith in their beliefs, but a lot of people are faithfully wrong. I don't know who's right.
No, you're right. And when we come back, folks, next hour we got King's Court, and we've got Pastor Butch Paugh. Stay tuned. This is the Intel Hub News Network, Freedomlink Radio.